Hello and welcome to another edition of the ProtoBalls podcast. I'm ProtoMet.
It's me, Barry, also known as my recycled balls.
You may be hearing some noises in the background. It snowed a lot recently, so everybody's out snow blowing.
It snowed like 17 inches in 2 days, so, that's a lot.
Yeah. But we're not here to talk about snow. We're here to talk about violence.
We're here to talk about the weirdest fucking movie I've seen. But this guy was like, hey, you want to watch this? Let's do it for a podcast. And I'm like, all right. And halfway through the movie, I'm like, what the fuck is even going on?
Yeah,
It's like I was watching a Japanese version of Terry Gilliam's Brazil.
I have no point for comparison for that, so I don't know.
It was... hold on. Yeah, it was a confusing movie. Like, eventually I got it. I was like, oh, this is what's happening. Gotcha. But that wasn't until, like, after the halfway point. And this movie's not very long. This movie's maybe, like, an hour and 20 minutes.
And that's the director's cut. The original theatrical version was, like, a little over 50 minutes. For point of reference, the film we are talking about today is Mechanical Violator Hakaider, which, don't take that whole Violator part too seriously. It has really nothing to do with this movie. In fact, the Japanese title of the film, Jinzo Ningen Hakaider, just translates to Android Hakaider.
Yeah.
It is a...
Okay, so that's why he's called Jinzo, the Yu-Gi-Oh card, because Jinzo is Android.
Even though Jinzo is technically a cyborg.
Right. Right. Well, okay.
But yeah.
So yes, fun fact of the day. The reason that Jinzo is called Jinzo, even in the Western version, is just because Jinzo means android.
Well, it's more accurately artificial human, but android is a good...
An android!
Not, unless we're talking about Dragon Ball Z. Then they could be cyborgs that are called androids.
They're androids. Well, technically they're cyborg. They're androids. That was I didn't know.
This is a distant spin-off of the 1970s series, Tokusatsu series.
Android Hakaider.
Yes.
Yeah, Android Hakaider. Yeah.
And this focuses on a variation of one of the villains from that show, Hakaider, who in the original series was a robot created specifically to destroy Hakaider. Hence why his name is Hakaider. Hakai meaning destroy.
Right.
Also, he had a brain implanted in his head.
Which is weird. Kind of weird, but okay.
It made sense in context because it was the brain of Hakaider's creator, whom Hakaider and the creator's two children had been searching for throughout the series. So it's kind of a hostage inside of the hostage taker.
Yeah, so this movie came out in
95,
and it's based on a show from the 70s. So, should tell you a little bit about their priorities. They go, some of these companies, they go, hey, that's a show from the 70s. Let's make it a movie about it.
Yeah, but they decided to go dark and edgy.
Yeah.
Perhaps the most appropriate way possible, considering that the character that they were using as the template was the villain of the show, so...
Yeah. Yeah.
Thankfully, you don't need to have seen Hakaider in order to understand this movie. That was just me geeking out a bit, because I like this movie and Hakaider.
And it was produced by Toei Animation.
Yes. Directed by Keita Amamiya, which, just look at it, it's totally a Keita Amamiya film. And written by Toshiki Inoue. Oh, that's, it's a bit of a mixed bag for me.
Oh, he did do Garo, didn't he?
Yes.
Yep.
For record, Keita Amamiya created the Garo franchise.
And he did a bunch of Kamen Rider.
Well, he did a couple Kamen Rider movies. Did
Kamen Rider Decade, Kamen Rider Black, Kamen Rider Black RX.
Those were character designs or monster designs.
Right.
He also did Kido KGG Bon and...
he also did Zoo Ranger. He was a director for 2 episodes.
Yes. So...
Yeah, so, you know, this guy's kind of... Oh, God, he did the designs for Clock Tower 3. Oh, no!
I was going to bring that up at some point.
Oh, no! What's funny is I was literally just talking to somebody, to a coworker last night about Clock Tower 3 and how much they hate that game because they played the shit out of it when they were younger. I was like, he's also seeing the podcast too, and he's just like, it's good stuff.
I could definitely say that his movie work is arguably better than his game design, though he did work on one of the Shin Megami Tensei games.
I have mentioned this in the past. Clock Tower 3, I've been back and forth on it, and I can say nowadays, I think I said this in the I'm pretty sure I said this in the Phenomena review.
Probably.
That I love Clock Tower 3 now. It's so stupid and dumb. I can't help but fucking love it. It's a shame that it's called a Clock Tower, because if it was called anything else, it probably would have gotten better reviews.
Yeah, I think it's really only even... I think they only have a clock tower in the game just to justify calling it a clock tower game.
Not in fact that there's, scissor twins. And that was...
Yeah, but that's
that was awful. Like the worst.
Yeah, by the time that came around, it's like,
by the time Chopper comes around that the game falls off a cliff. But even then, it's so ridiculous and so bonkers. So the fact that this guy did character designs, alright? And then the director of Battle Royale did the motion capture. That's kind of a star-studded cast just for that game. Which is crazy to think about. But we're not talking about Clock Tower 3. We're talking about Hakaider.
The screenplay for the film was also written by Toshiki Inoue, who he's done writing for a lot of anime and tokusatsu. He was the main screenwriter for Death Note.
He did Fist of the North Star.
Yes.
He did Dragon Ball 1, not regular Dragon Ball.
So he's had a prolific career. Personally,
Ranma 1/2. He did.
Most of my experience with his writing is with the tokusatsu genre.
Oh, he did season 0 of Yu-Gi-Oh.
It was a Toei show.
Yes, it was.
But with his tokusatsu work, it's kind of a mixed bag for me. Because on the one hand, I liked Choco Senshi Shanzarian for how unique it is and how off the wall that ending is.
Speaking of Death Note, just an aside, it's great until L dies, then it falls off a cliff. I refuse to watch the series after that.
But I also really liked Chojin Sentai Jetman, one of my 2 favorite seasons of Super Sentai. And he's actually the current head writer for the current season of Super Sentai, which is actually ending this weekend. Avatar Sentai Dawn Brothers.
Yeah, it looks like he's done a bunch of Sentai and Kamen Rider as well.
Unfortunately, I'm not a huge fan of Kamen Rider Fies, and I feel that the final...
Oh yeah, that's the one that you're just like, fuck Fives, I hate it.
Kinda, yeah. But he's also in part responsible for the final third of Kamen Rider Hibiki, which absolutely destroys that series. I loved Kamen Rider Hibiki until you get to the final third. The final third is utter trash that just drags the entire rest of the series down into a garbage fire. It is... even the lead actor of the show wished that the show could have ended with the original writer and production team.
Oof.
The finale for that series was a complete joke.
Oh, okay. So he's the director for Zoo Ranger, which, in case people don't know, turned into Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
I don't know if he did I think he may have only done a few episodes of that.
It says he did. Where is it? It says he was there for that series for all of 92. It says.
Okay.
It doesn't say he was specifically a head writer for any episodes.
I did know that he wrote the majority of the preceding season, which I've already mentioned.
Which is Jetman.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
But yeah. So
for me, it's a bit of a mixed bag, and knowing that he wrote this movie makes sense for me.
It makes a lot of sense. But yes, Zoo Ranger ended up becoming Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and thus history was written.
So it's partly his fault that that we're even talking about this movie.
Yes, I hate you. It's all your fucking fault.
Damn you, Toshiki Inoue.
Damn you being,
Alright, now, behind the scenes stuff out of the way, let's finally get around to talking about the actual movie now that we're 11 minutes into the podcast.
Right, yes. So, the movie starts, as all most Toei films start, with an ocean.
I mean, that's just their...
It's just a crashing beach. That's just how it starts.
That's just their logo. That's their eye catch thing.
Yeah. And then it swoops over to, this fucking monolith, Like, it's like a monolith, isn't it? It's like a giant vault.
Yeah. With a bunch of, marauders going in to raid the treasures from, some rebellion war or something.
Right, yeah.
That occurred, 3 years ago.
And they break into this place. Let me tell you, this movie has an oddly diverse cast of people, and that is supposedly because the majority of the film takes place in Israel. Is that where?
I think that's what it said. I mean, it's never actually called out in the movie itself. That's never mentioned. I don't know where Wikipedia got that little bit of tidbit, but it was what used to be either, what was it, Israel or Jerusalem?
It used to be Jerusalem, I think is what they were saying.
So, yeah.
Let me have a look. Yes. Jesus Town, a pseudo-utopia built on what once was Jerusalem. Which tracks a lot, especially considering current politics. Ooh.
But this movie came out in 95, which doesn't make it better when you consider it.
Which actually makes it worse. Oh, no. Quick, how do we backdoor our way out of this?
It was made in Japan.
Okay, there we go. They didn't know any better.
Let's hope that's the case. I don't know any better.
Right. And then they're just like, it's a post-apocalypse. No one will care.
Especially considering that, we don't even know where this Jerusalem information is coming from because it's not in the movie itself.
Maybe it might have
Maybe it was in the video game sequel or something.
It might have been Word of God. I don't know. Mm-hmm. And by word... And for people who don't know that term, Word of God, it means,
authorial intent.
Yes. Basically, the director, the creator of the series says this. Therefore, it's confirmed.
I mean, unless it's contradicted within the media itself.
Unless it's contradicted within the media itself, yes.
But anyway, they enter this vault and find...
a dude! Just some dude.
Not treasure, just a guy chained up. Somehow still alive despite being trapped down there for 3 years.
They fucking let loose on this dude. They fire their weapons at him.
And he just turns into a robot man and slaughters them.
And then he goes, "Oh, who am I?"
Don't linger too much on the amnesiac portion because that doesn't matter.
It literally does not come up again.
No. Cut to him motorcycling his way up to a security checkpoint.
He at this point he basically becomes Kenshiro with no memory and no agency. You know what I mean?
Basically,
yeah, with no history or agency. He just...
I mean, there is, I guess, something that's brought up later that maybe is motivating him, but that's...
But it's already established he doesn't remember who he is.
Not that it matters anyway.
Yes.
Because it doesn't even get brought up outside of this one moment.
And so... we get a chase scene. We back away from this guy. We go to a chase scene where a bunch of soldiers are chasing after this guy.
I think these are more cops. I mean, we get soldiers later on, but these guys look more like SWAT cops, which probably just indicates that they're regular cops.
Maybe.
Given this dystopian place.
Maybe. But,
they're trying to catch this one dude who's hiding out in, I guess, an abandoned building or something.
Yeah.
But he gets surrounded, and so he pulls out a gun and puts it to his head. And then another white robot shows up and saves his life. Because despite being a criminal, his life matters.
Something like that.
This is Michael, who is one of the villains of this film.
Was he a character in...
No.
No, he was not a character in
Not
Hakaider.
really, no.
Okay. So yeah, we're just straight up, nope, this is not tied into the regular series at all.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, sounds good. So after that, Hakaider arrives in Jesus Town.
Well, he arrives on the border checkpoint of
Yeah.
Jesus Town, and he's stopped by a security guard who's basically like,
I need ID.
Hakaider just kind of touches this robot that kind of goes a bit wild, and that doesn't matter anything. So then Hakaider just drives through the electrified barrier.
Yeah.
Which shocks the security guard, especially when it looks down and sees the burning chain link.
Right? And he's just like, that's weird. I'm not going to report anything on this.
So then Hakaider busts into town by breaking down one of the doors. But let's move on from there to like a bunch of rebels.
Yeah,
You can tell that they're rebels because they're the only characters in town not wearing white. This movie has a very basic
black and white morality. Except it's inverted. That's the worst part. Oh, no. Basically, long story short, for those of you who aren't checked in yet, white is bad, black is good.
Except in this movie where black is bad and white is also bad.
Oh, no. So in normal black and white morality, white is good, black is bad. That's why it's called black and white morality.
Right.
In this movie, yes, black is bad, but white is also bad.
But like worse bad than black.
Worse bad because they're all theocratic, which checks out for Jerusalem, let me tell you.
Anyway, getting away from the rebels in black, because I forgot that we are also introduced to the main villain of this film, Gurdjieff. Who is basically espouting how it's Jesus Town's 3rd anniversary and how he's created this utopia, which clearly indicates that he's a maniac. And a lot of the film's religious iconography comes directly from this guy's imagination. So
take that with a grain of salt.
So yeah, all the religious imagery this film has doesn't mean a goddamn thing because it's coming from the villain who has a bit of a god complex.
Yeah.
Which I think is actually kind of okay, because that means that we don't have to think about it too hard.
So, he catches on a security camera
that Hakaider is back in town, and that terrifies him, because he then explains to Michael that Hakaider had been created 3 years earlier during the initial founding of Jesus Town as a violent, oppressive robot in order to maintain the peace. However, he was too violent, and then some scientists stole him, and he hadn't been seen since. So basically, Hakaider's come to Jesus Town to do something about Gurdjieff, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, so then we get a big fight. We get a big chase scene with... Before
that, we have a dream sequence in which this girl, Kaoru, imagines herself as a fairy being hunted by this angel of death.
It's stupid. I don't care.
Good effects, though. At least for the angel.
It's stupid. I don't care.
And then a Black Knight shows up because obviously that's going to be Hakaider. Obvious imagery is obvious. Obvious foreshadowing is obvious.
You mean symbolism?
Obvious symbolism is obvious.
Yes.
Symbolism.
I was gonna let you finish that. Yeah. But then she wakes up and a bunch of shit happens. Hakaider gets into a fucking motorcycle chase because he's got a motorcycle. He's a badass. Whatever.
Meanwhile, the rebels.
He's the Terminator. He's the fucking Terminator in this movie. Okay.
The chase scene is pretty intense, though.
Like, this is almost completely stolen from Terminator 2. Let's be honest here.
Except nobody has a truck.
There's no truck.
Therefore, it's not copyrighted.
But it is a motorcycle chase where the main character is basically an android.
Yeah.
Okay? And he has human skin over his android self.
I guess. I mean, these shows never really explain how they
he has a humanoid disguise.
Yeah. I get what you're getting at.
That's just something I noticed while I was watching. I was like, God, this feels like the main character is just a reskin of the Terminator. But, like, not from the future.
Technically from the past.
And technically from the past. This is a
character from the 70s. Looks a lot better in this than he did in the original series, but I still love that design. But
yeah.
Anyway, he kills some of the soldiers that are chasing him. The rebels are basically looting a bank, an armored truck, to get money.
Yeah.
Hakaider shows up and wrecks all the soldiers' shit.
And then Hakaider gets knocked out.
Well, he gets shot by like a cannon. Ooh! There's one moment where Hakaider is facing off with one soldier. Hakaider's shotgun has gotten out of his hand, so the soldier grabs the gun and fires it and gets blown away, leaving behind the shotgun and his arm.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yep. So yeah, he's knocked out. He's out of commission for a while, but that's okay because the rebels picked him up.
Well, no, he gets back up. He gets shot by this cannon that's on a truck. He gets back up, grabs his shotgun, shoots the cannon, blowing that up, and then shoots the truck, blowing up the soldiers and leaving them like half dead. And then he gets carted away by the rebels. And then Michael shows up to check on the soldiers, and when one survivor shows up, he's like, well, you're not worthy enough to be my soldiers because you didn't fight to the death. And so stabs him in the face.
Whatever.
To a criminal, your life has meaning because you are alive. Why didn't you die fighting for me?
Yeah, stabs him in the face.
So yeah, throw any sort of morality you thought these characters had right out the window.
It does not make sense, no. Anyways, so Hakaider wakes up in the rebel base, yada yada yada. They chat, and it's explained, even though they're all selfish dickheads,
that they're fighting against the government, the parliament, though we only ever see Gurdjieff.
Because dissidents are lobotomized.
Basically, and chips are implanted in their brain to suppress emotions, basically turning them into babies in adult bodies.
Yeah, basically.
Which is horrific when you think about it.
Right. Yeah.
You don't even need to think about it that hard to realize how horrific it is. But they're going to overthrow the government and, with all their counterfeit money. Because I assume that's why they stole all that money and are carefully inspecting all of it.
Maybe. And then, what do you know? The soldiers show up.
Except they're not there for the rebels. They're there for Hakaider.
And the rebels are just kind of caught up in the crossfire. So they're all killed.
Except for Kalru and Arnie. Though Arnie is the first one actually shot.
Yeah.
He somehow manages to survive.
Doesn't he die later, though?
Yes, he
Yeah,
does.
Okay, yeah.
In a scene that I do want to mention. So anyway, Hakaider gets into a fight with the soldiers, gets blown out of a window, lands in debris, and then get rocket launched. And then as the soldiers are leaving, there's Kaoru and Arnie, who's still barely alive. And then they just walk past the two remaining rebels until we get to the last soldier, who just casually turns to them and shoots them. It's like the rebels are an afterthought to them. And then Michael shows up again.
Well, that's because they don't even pose much of a threat.
Right.
There's what? 8 of them? And I was going to mention, once again, surprisingly diverse cast.
Yes.
So
yes.
There's a bunch of, there's the Asians there, the Japanese
ones that I recognize from other tokusatsu shows.
There's a surprising amount of, African Americans in this movie. Which
white
is
people?
White people? Fucking white people are in this film? It's like, what the fuck?
I mean, clearly they had a pretty good budget.
This had to have been an international production.
I doubt it, considering that it was a fairly obscure tokusatsu show from the 70s. That was the inspiration.
You shut your fucking whore mouth. Okay.
Although it did get a U.S. release probably well before the original show did. Although that did air in Hawaii, so...
Yeah, but it's Hawaii in the 70s. It's not really actually the United States. At least not yet. Hasn't been completely corporatized and commercialized to hell.
I cannot comment on the state of affairs of a state that I don't live in.
That you've been to once.
Yes.
And you didn't even enjoy it to the fullest.
That's because I'm a shut-in.
Hey, let's go to Hawaii. You get there and you're in your hotel room all week.
I mean, you're not wrong.
That always got me to laugh. I was like, fuck, you could have done anything, dude. You could have done...
I did do anything. I stayed in my room.
You were 18 at the time, weren't you?
Yes, it was...
Yeah, you could have done anything outside of, alcohol, but...
Right.
I'm just saying, dude. Come on.
I mean, it's not like I was trapped in the I didn't hole up in the apartment or hotel room the entire time. I did go out a few times.
Right.
Did climb a mountain and was a pack mule as a result.
And then got a statue of King Kamehameha.
Yes, that's over there.
That's over there. Anyways, where were we? Oh, right. So, yeah.
Michael shows up
and
asks how Hakaider is doing. We shot him out the thing and then rocketed him. And okay. And then Kaoru confronts them so that Michael glowy hands her.
Yeah, fucking stabs her in the stomach, basically.
With his glowy hand.
And she's walking through the streets, and all these people are just like, oh, peasants. Yeah. Get the fuck away from me.
They can probably tell that because she's wearing black. She's a rebel.
She's a rebel.
Even though they didn't care earlier when she was among them.
Like, fucking... Way to give yourself away, guys. That you're rebels.
I think it may have been more for the audience, considering that this movie doesn't really give a shit about actual symbolism.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't give a fuck.
I mean, this film takes place in a place literally called Jesus Town. Subtlety went out the window before this movie even started.
So Hakaider shows up, takes her to
Yeah, Hakaider somehow survived, and she takes him to an oasis. There, she has another dream sequence where the Black Knight reveals himself as Hakaider.
And then she dies.
And also she gets a white dress, which means that she's the bad guy now?
I don't fucking know. So Hakaider takes her charm that she had with her. I don't know.
It's like a bell.
And he fucking goes to town.
Apparently he destroys Parliament Hall and kills off like 95% of the soldiers with one shot.
Yeah.
Like, he just shoots and somehow hits the energy core of Parliament building.
And then he comes across a bunch of people that are about to be lobotomized, and he frees them.
And it depends on which language you're watching the scene in. Like, in the English dub, he says, "The nightmare is over," and then busts open the bars. But in the Japanese version, he asks them, "Do you want to be free?"
Yeah, do you
want to live free? And the little boy nods, and so then he pulls off the bars.
Yeah.
Because Hakaider's whole point in this movie is free will, which is what Gurdjieff is trying to suppress.
Kinda, yeah.
Not even kinda. I mean, chipping in the brain.
So anyways, Hakaider goes to the big office building.
Well, before that, he's confronted by what few soldiers actually remain, and manages to headshot a few of them with one shot.
Yep. Oh. This movie, I tell ya.
Great effects work. Can't deny that.
So then we get to the big fight with Hakaider and Michael.
And the White Room starts to slowly look bloody because every time they break a wall, it turns out the walls have red inside them. Like, not like blood and guts, it's more like wires and shit, but it kind of looks like it because it's all red.
It's machinery and oil.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a pretty good fight scene. Hakaider's about to get his ass completely shit on.
Michael even picks up his gun and unloads the thing.
Yeah.
Which is like the only time I've ever seen a movie use the pump action in the way that it actually is supposed to imply. Actually getting rid of the cartridges.
Yeah.
Like, every action movie you see, whenever somebody pumps their shotgun, that means that they've loaded up another shot.
No, that's not how it works.
I mean, technically that's how it works, so long as you still have stuff in it.
Yeah.
But you're supposed to pump it after you take the shot to get rid of the bullet, not before you take the shot. If you do that before taking the shot, you're just wasting a cartridge. And this movie gets it.
Well, yeah, so what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to pump it down, and then you load, and then you push it forward, and the cartridge will load into it. So when you pump it back, the cartridge expels, and you pump it back, the cartridge loads. That's how it's supposed to work. So you pump down, you load, you unpump, and then you fire. You pump, you fire. That's how it works. No, not in movies. They're just it's up. Congrats, you've wasted time. You've wasted time when you could have had it down pumped, you loaded, and then, you save an extra millisecond or whatever.
Yeah. Again,
they're doing it. Movies are doing it wrong. That's what's wrong.
But this movie, for once, does it right.
Right. He pumps it because he's getting rid of all the shells.
Yeah. To render the shotgun useless.
To render it completely useless. Which, as it turns out, well, that didn't really affect much.
Because Hakaider grabs a couple shells and as Michael is about to deal the killing blow, Hakaider loads one into his arm and reveals an arm cannon that blasts Michael's glowy hand off.
And then he gets decapitated.
Well, not before his wing gets torn off, but yeah, he gets decapitated.
Oh, fuck the wing. The wing don't matter. It's the head.
And then he tosses the head aside once Gurdjieff shows up.
Yeah. And then Michael's head gets put onto a tank.
And then it becomes like a Hakaider reference. Because the blue and red color scheme of this tank robot is meant to represent Hakaider. What with the whole justice... That pissed off a lot of Hakaider fans, let me tell you. I thought it was a nice touch and a nice commentary on blind justice, but...
I guess. I don't know. I have no frame of reference.
And that's completely fine, see?
But anyway, tank gets destroyed.
Hakaider uses a chest cannon he somehow manages to have, which is rendered using CGI.
Which is just like, where the fuck was this stuff earlier?
Inside his chest. Were you not paying attention?
Shut the fuck up. So anyway, Hakaider confronts Gurdjieff, and he's just like, nah, you're not worth killing, you fucking loser. But then
And then Gurdjieff picks up like a laser cannon or something.
he picks up like a revolver.
No, he tries shooting Hakaider with a revolver.
Yeah.
But that's before Hakaider's like, yeah, you're not worth it.
Oh, and then he grabs Hakaider's shotgun.
No, it's not Hakaider's shotgun. It's some other cannon thing, probably blown off of the tank robot.
Maybe. I don't know.
But anyway, he aims it at Hakaider, and then Hakaider turns around and stabs him in the gut. And then feathers!
Yep.
Feathers and religious chanting kind of reminded me of Christmas. It was mostly the chanting.
So Gurdjieff's dead. Michael's consciousness is lost completely. And what does Hakaider do? Well, he just motorcycles away. His job's done.
Then the movie ends.
And then the movie ends. What the fuck was that?
I will admit, I don't watch this movie for its plot. It's more for the visuals of it.
Well, that's okay, but that's not. I guess that's not my thing.
That is completely fair.
I was just through this movie. I was zoning completely in and out, and I was just like, "What the fuck is happening?" I think I'm not gonna lie. I almost napped through the entire motorcycle chase scene just because I was just like, "God, I'm fucking zoning out right now." I don't know what I'm doing.
I will admit that it's not a great movie. I want to give it a 7 out of 10, mostly just for the design aesthetic. The plot is completely dismissible and incredibly basic.
Right.
But the design work, I like that. That's what I'm here for.
I'll give it a solid fucking 5.
That is
Solid 5. It's an hour and 20 minutes. It's got...
No, it's not.
It's like an hour and a half, ain't it?
No, it's a little over an hour, and that's only if you're watching the director's cut.
Well, no wonder why. It's only 37 minutes so far.
I mean, if you want a longer movie from Kate Amamiya...
Please, no.
I did recently watch Zayram, and it has an even more basic plot that's a lot easier to follow because it doesn't have any symbolism added into it by Toshiki Inoue. It's incredibly basic.
But yeah, it's like an hour, whatever. It's motorcycle chases, action, that's it. Not a lot of symbolism.
I mean,
not a lot of plot.
It's got symbolism, but it's like forced down your throat intentionally. You're not supposed to take it seriously.
And it's pretty much nothing else. It's a nothing movie. It's just like they made it and they packaged it and patented it, and now they're selling it.
Yeah, admittedly, this was really just kind of as part of a mini theater marathon with like 2 other movies that were connected to TV shows that were airing.
Yeah.
And I can definitely say that one of those movies kind of fits in with this movie and kind of being a chaotic mess.
I'm not surprised. So, recommendations?
I'm actually going to recommend Garo. I mean, this is...
Okay, that's what I figured.
Garo is a much better viewing experience than this because it has a much better plot. The general plot is that a struggling artist, Kaoru, ends up finding herself engaged in a secret hidden world when she encounters a golden knight fighting a monster and winds up getting splashed with the monster's blood, which, unbeknownst to her, will eventually kill her. And the series is basically the adventures of this golden knight fighting monsters while using her as bait. But also emotions. It's a lot better than I'm describing it, I have to admit.
It's a horror series.
Yes, as evidenced by the fact that the monsters are literally called horrors.
Yep.
And it's got a bunch of different seasons throughout the series. I definitely recommend the first season at the very least. That one is pretty good. Later seasons are kind of hit and miss. Some are great, others not so much, but in general, I love the series. It's got Amamiya's whole aesthetic just on full display. With an engaging plot.
Well, Yeah, it's alright. My recommendation is it's a show
Okay.
called Bocchi the Rock.
I've heard of this. I think you've mentioned this to me before.
I have mentioned it to you before.
I think you even mentioned it after I got done watching this movie.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. So it's based on a light novel series, based on a manga series. It's an anime that came out this year, or it came out last year. Basically, it's about a socially inept high school girl who's really good at guitar, but is like so socially inept. She's terrible at conversation. She's bad at everything. She has low self-esteem. And the way the anime illustrates that is fucking bonkers. It's one of the most insane adaptations I've ever seen.
Even more so than Death Note?
Even more insane than that. It is like if Teen Pop Epic.
Pop Team Epic.
Pop Team Epic. It's like that kind of style of like cutaway joke. Where it's like so over exaggerated, it's insane. I might show you a couple clips, I don't know, but yeah. Hitori Goto, that's her name. Her nickname is Bocchi because it's a play on the phrase "all alone," which I can't remember what it is in Japanese.
Hitori Bocchi?
Yeah, Hitori Bocchi. Yeah,
I might be wrong.
something like that. But then she gets discovered just accidentally because she's sitting on like a park swing. And this other girl goes like, "You got a guitar?" Because she's got a guitar on her back. She's like, "You got a guitar? You can play guitar? I need you to come with me." And she fucking gets dragged to a club. And and they form a band and everything. And the band's name is Kasoku Band, which is literally zip tie band. And every other character is very unique. You know, there's the drummer who's realist. There's the bassist who is not socially inept like Hitari. Instead, she's antisocial. So, you know, very cold, an introvert of sorts. And then there's the one who's the extrovert of the group. Gets along with everybody, has a bright disposition, yada yada yada. And she's the singer and rhythm guitarist. And it's a good show, very funny, very wholesome. It's very weird. It's a weird show. It's so weird.
Just side tangent. I just earlier this week watched through Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid S, the second season of the series.
Okay.
Oh, I fell in love with that show all over again.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it definitely feels like a continuation of the first season. Very good. Oh.
Okay. Well, I guess that's another episode wrapped up. Oh,
yep.
This one did not take very long.
Well, the movie isn't terribly long in the first place, so.
I mean, the movie has nothing to it either.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose that does it for us.
See ya.
Goodbye.